Monroe, the old Monroe campus. We're going over the hill, south side of the hill, it's called Monroe 1. Oh, hi everyone. We were chatting about land use and planning. It's an exciting topic, a terribly exciting topic. You out there in TV land should educate yourself about your city's development plans and how you at home can have an important role in that. Welcome to the show. It's May of 2014, and I, as a television host of a somewhat popular show, I am myself somewhat saddened by the realization that two of my TV show heroes, Dave Letterman and Craig Ferguson, have both announced they are resigning their TV shows. You know, they're stepping down. Letterman's like 1,000 years old, near as I can tell, because I watched Letterman on TV when I was in high school, which now that I think of it was a long time ago at this point, because I think this year is my 30th high school reunion or something. I don't pay attention really. And Craig Ferguson's only been on like 7 or 8 years, but I greatly enjoy his show. Comes on at 12:30. It's wacky, and I have tried to mold my TV show to be like theirs, except not really funny or anywhere near as good, because I've watched the show. Now, in my defense, they have writers and production values and money, and I got none of that. I have me, and I have 8.5 by 11 pieces of paper I fold in half because full piece of paper's got too much space on it. I can't think if I'm looking at a full piece of paper. Anyway, people have said to me, we were talking about this before the show, they're like, Keith, when are you going to retire from your TV show? And I'll admit I've given it a lot of thought as to when the appropriate time for me to step down would be. I mean, I can't do it this year because after Letterman and Ferguson, the American public can't take another popular TV show host retiring, and they don't want me to retire either. So I'm going to tough it out at least another 9 months until I'm actually popular. And after I'm actually popular, then I'll coast for 15 or 20 years. And then I will retire in a blaze of glory. Or eventually the show will just peter out and people will say, hey, did you used to do a TV show? And I'll be like, no, you must be thinking of someone else. For God's sakes, don't go look at me on YouTube. On that topic, before the taping tonight, we were sitting in the lobby here. And in the lobby of this TV studio, they have television showing what's actually on this TV at the moment. And there was this show. Now, the volume is off, so we could not tell what they were saying. But it was kids, and they were being psychedelic, and so I assumed they were high. And then they were doing wacky things, and they were doing green screen stuff, and then there were puppets. And then I turned to John, and I was like, is this an acid flashback? And John's like, we don't take acid. I'm like, that's true, but if this was an acid flashback, we might not realize we have taken acid. I mean, I did drink a Coke earlier. Someone could have spiked it with a powerful hallucinogen, which would explain this TV show I'm watching. And then someone walked by and said, oh, that's the kid camp TV show that they do. And I'm like, oh, kids camp. That's where they bring the kids in. They're like, you got a week away from your parents. They've already given us the cash, so just do whatever the heck you want. Don't break shit. By the way, this is a green screen. You can do kind of weird things with it. And then the kids were like, we're going to do everything in front of the green screen. Everything at all. And we'll just pull up stuff from the internet and put it behind us on the green screen. The parents were like, yeah, go ahead, go ahead. It was amazing. I lost respect for my TV show watching this other TV show, which not exactly the right way to start off the show tonight. Lastly, I was again reminded that this show is woefully behind on editing. So I have fired the editor again. Okay? This show will not be edited. Okay? Some idiot's going to drop into Final Cut Pro. They're going to drop down a begin pin. And then they're going to say plus 283000 and hit return. And they're going to drop an end pin. And then maybe I'll get them to put credits on. Nothing else. No, nothing. No words down here. No funny pictures. No suppressing of coughs if they happen. Nothing. Okay? It'll be like you were here in the studio live watching it. Except no risk of spittle. I'm told people in the front row occasionally are upset by the occasion. Okay. Big topic for this month. From my perspective, it's the 1st of May today, so we all know what that means you people at home are doing. So I assume you're taking a tiny break and watching the TV show between, that's all I'm saying, 1st of May, happy spring. For me, right, the thing that happens at the beginning of May is I have this big bike ride every year up in Napa where I raise money for the American Diabetes Association. But mostly I go on this big bike ride because, as I've said before, I am still fat and need to be less fat. And the way to do that, I used my engineer brain and thought this up all by myself, patent pending, was eat less food and exercise more. And long bike rides count as exercise because long bike rides take a long time and therefore they just add up. Even if you're not Lance Armstrong biking, if you are biking for 5 or 6 hours, that counts as some serious calories. So this year, like last year, we're doing 80 miles. We're doing 80 miles. Now, the people I'm with don't know we're doing 80 miles, right? We're just going to get to the point where you turn, and we go left, and they're going to go, God, are we tired? And I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's left. And they're going to be, I think it's right. It says 50. I'm like, no, that's on the way back. The 50 is that way. We're doing 80 miles. Last year, Maureen and I tried to do 80 miles. And here's the thing. The route, they have 4 routes. They have like a 10-minute bike ride route. I don't know why you'd sign up for that. And they have like a 5-mile route for the kids, right? Because kids aren't going to bike a long time. Plus, their legs are very small, right? It's hard for a kid to bike a long time because the legs are so tiny. And then they have like a 10-mile and a 25-mile and an 80-mile and a 100-mile. And all the real bikers do the 100-mile, right? They all call it. They're all century people. They got the spandex. They're very aerodynamic. They know what their bikes weigh with some accuracy, and they talk about bike things like, oh, I got a new cantilever and a rear derailleur and gear ratios and boom. I'm not one of those, so I'm not allowed to do the 100. Last year I tried to sign up for the 100 and it brought up a little quiz. It was like, identify these parts of your bike. And I was like, that's the seat and the pedal thing, and I think that's the rear wheel. And then they emailed me back. They said, you are not smart enough to bike 100 miles. We don't believe you. So we were going to do the 80. And the 80 up there, the 50, like the 25 is mostly flat. It's in Napa. It's beautiful. It lulls you in. And the 50, it's downhill for like the first 10 miles, right? It's downhill, and then you're downhill, and then there's a little uphill, and then it's downhill, and you're like, man, this is great. 15 miles in, downhill, look at the beautiful countryside. It's a Sunday morning. We should stop and have brunch. Oh, wait, we're on a bike ride. And then you're on the 50, and then you turn, and then there's this point where you stop at a rest stop, and you're like, oh, well, this isn't that bad. And then after the rest stop, there's a hill, and it's it's not steep, but it just keeps going for a while. And then you get to the top and you're like, wow, that was not a fun 20 minutes. But then it's down and you're like, this is great. And then it's downhill until you get near the end. And by the end, you have no energy left to hate the bike ride, and then it goes uphill again. But again, you have no energy left at the end. So you don't, just like with childbirth, right? You forget that horrible part at the end when you're going uphill. All you remember is like month 5 when your ankles swelled on that hill, okay? So we signed up to do the 80-mile ride, and then I made the mistake of looking at the altitude maps of some people that had done it before and realized that the 50 had this hill you went up and came down, and the 80 had that hill, and then it had this other hill that you went way up and then down, and then you looped, then you went back up and back down, then you got to that hill I talked about on the 50. And then I made the mistake of mentioning this to Maureen. And so we're on the 80-mile ride, and we are up that really bad hill, which Maureen nicknamed she had a lot of names for it, which I cannot say. I cannot say most of the names Maureen had for this hill on my TV show. But we had been going up quite a while, and we were tired. There was a point when I realized I was pedaling, but I don't think I was really going forward much, because my bike has gears I didn't know it had until we got to this hill, and they are, you can do this a lot, then you're like, I don't think I'm moving at all, but you're moving just very, very slowly, so slowly in fact that it's hard to stay balanced. Anyway, we kept going up, and then we saw a sign, and it said, now entering blank county. And I'm like, oh, I think this is the top of the hill. And Maureen said, hell no. And I said, no, I think this is the top of the hill. And she said, no, we're not going down that hill. I think we have to. We've biked up. You have to go down. She's like, no, because if we go down, we got to come back up again to get back to where we started. And I'm like, yes, that's how hills work. She's like, hell no. So we turned around at the top of the hill. Now, at the time, I was delirious. I assume because we were up high, the altitude, not enough oxygen or something, so I wasn't quite thinking straight to talk some sense into her. But I've written all this down this year, which is why when we do the 80-mile ride, she will succumb to my logic, which is when we have gotten up to the top of that hill again, it's downhill for a long time, and downhill is great on a bike. Like you don't got to pedal or nothing. It's like being in a car in terms of the not pedaling part. So really, we've then got 20 minutes of fabulousness, and at the bottom of that hill, I did some research. Free wine. When you get to the bottom of the hill, they give you free wine. Lots of stuff. They have people there to massage your feet. And then on the way back up, people push you. People push you up the hill. They have volunteers. They get out and they push your bike up the hill. So it's going to be great. We will be there. So that's this Sunday for me. So if you see me Monday, you will notice I am walking kind of slow. Because it will take us like 8 hours to bike 80 miles. I don't know why, because I bike at 14 miles an hour, but somehow 80 miles will take me 10 hours, maybe 11. I don't know. Anyway, we have been preparing for the ride. I have been modifying the bike. I have strapped a bubble machine to the back of my bike with a cable so I can activate it remotely. And I have to get my hand pump so I can fill it with bubble solution without getting off the bike automatically from a thing. Before I said the real bicyclists know what their bike weighs, what I know is my bike is really heavy because I put a lot of crap on it for no good reason. I have 2 big bags and I'll stuff them full of stuff. Even though it's going to be 90 degrees, I'll have a full pair of sweats in case I get cold. Extra suntan lotion, some water, some food, a tent. But like I said, the whole reason, not the whole reason, the reason I do it is I like to inflict misery on the people I convince to go biking with me. But it is also an opportunity to raise money. And by that what I mean is I ask all my friends, hey, go donate money. And then some of them do. And then I give away prizes. So specifically, I made T-shirts. I made cookies for people. We're going to send postcards to people. We got a big flag we write everyone's name on. If you are watching this, and I have no idea how you'll be watching this right now, before the ride, because I don't think we're broadcasting, but if you are watching this, you can still get in on this. Go to this URL, right? It's down here somewhere. That's the big bike ride. It's the bike ride of less death. Last year it was the bike ride of death because 80 miles, but we're better. Like we know what the hard parts are, so now it's the bike ride of less death. And if you sign up, you can still get a shirt. That's all I'm saying. Now also, sorry, my throat's a little scratchy because, of course, I'm probably coming down with a cold just before the big bike. And I don't think I am. Allergies. I'm going to blame allergies. And by that I mean tree sex. It's the freaking trees doing this to us. So on that topic, something else, something we did recently, this last week, I have some kind of acquaintances that they have this thing called the Strange Room, and it's a puzzle where they put you in a room, and then you got to you got to figure out what the puzzles are, and then you got to solve the puzzles to get out of the room. It's over in San Jose. It's strangely compelling. Now I got invited because people are like, Keith, you're good at puzzles. And then I was like, yes. Knowing in my head that I'm lying. I'm terrible at puzzles. I hate puzzles. I don't do puzzles. People are like, you must be really good at crosswords. And I'm like, no, I am not really good at crosswords. I'm bad at crosswords, which is why I don't do crosswords. Occasionally I do the Sudokus, but mostly when I have done Sudoku puzzles, eventually, like I was on a plane and they were like, here's a Sudoku, and I'm like, well, I could start doing things. And I'm like, or I could pull out my computer and I could write a Ruby program to just solve a Sudoku puzzle. So I wrote a Ruby program and I was like, go, and then like 10 minutes later it prints out the solution and I'm like, and now I'm done. Now I never need to do another Sudoku puzzle again because I have written the program to just solve the damn thing. Not the most efficient thing. It takes it a couple hours sometimes, depending on how tricky they are, because reasons. I'm not going to edit that out. See, before I'd have told that editor guy there was a cough. Can you edit that out? And then we'd back up and we'd reset, and we're not doing that anymore, because reasons. Anyway, so it's a bunch of puzzles. Like you got to search around for clues, and like you're in a room, you're like, what's a clue? Well, everything's a clue in some weird sense. You're like, well, there's a computer, but there's no keyboard, and there's a phone, but it's locked, and you got to figure out how to lock it. And there are magnets with symbols, and it was crazy. It was crazy, and thankfully there were people in there that are good at puzzles, and mostly I'm good at staring at stuff and going, maybe that. And like I was right once, so bully me. If you get a chance, it's not a bad way to kill an hour and a half of your life, or to feel dumb for an hour and a half of your life. One of those two will happen. I'm watching TV the other day, and it turns out the Pope is making more people saints. I guess it hadn't really occurred to me where saints came from until a little while ago, and then it's like, well, it's just an administrative process. There's a guy whose office is like, this is the office of making a people of saints. It probably says that on the door in Latin, and I knew Latin at one point in my life, so if I could remember Latin, I would say that. But I'm sure his door in Latin says, this is the office where we make a people saints. And this was big because they were like making two previous Pope's saints on the same day, which has never happened before. So, okay, now the sainthood is like baseball.